Jessica. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome again to, I think this is the third webinar we're having for this cohort, right? So welcome again. So from me personally, right? So I'm going to take you just another deep dive into what Ascent is about, right? And then before welcome our host, guest speaker for today, all right? Just like I've said for the past 3 weeks, and just like you heard for the past 3 weeks, right? Ascent Innovation Lab is the most exciting space for GenZs on the internet to think, to play, and to create right now, right? And we're driven by one mission, one vision, as it were, and that's the reason we've got you all gathered here today, right? So I'm just going to spell that out, and then we'll call in our guest for tonight. All right. So quickly, something that we believe here at Ascent is that the world shouldn't be gated or shouldn't be separated, right, by biology, shouldn't be separated by geography, shouldn't be separated by age, shouldn't be separated by things that seemingly doesn't matter in a large scale of things, right? Now, just a quick picture, right? If you look at what's been happening in the past 5 years or thereabout, right? The introduction of clean technology, that's wind energy, solar energy, the introduction of tech as a whole, and then the introduction of AI, that's from 2025 down to this era, down to this age, right? You'll notice that it's more like a preparation for something, right? It's more like a preparation for something. And what you're actually preparing for, right? Looking through something recently, that's China's 5-year plans, right? China's 5-year plans. And it seems like a preparation for a world that is fully automated, right? Fully automated, as it were. So there is a kind of world that exists, right? Which is that, right? And almost everybody is getting prepared for it. China, Singapore, the US, you won't see Jeff Bezos investing over, I think that was $100 billion as at last week or a couple of weeks back into the same AI that we're talking about today, right? So there is the whole buzz about it, there's the whole razz about it, but the big picture is that we are getting into a fully automated world. I don't know if you've heard this before, but let me just reiterate. We are slowly coming to an automated world, as it were. And what we are doing this weeks, this cohort, next cohort, couple of cohorts from now, is still a preparation for we as Africans, we in emerging economies, right, to partake of that. But when it comes to chatbots, I believe that's one thing that we all know as AI. When you hear AI, when you hear the word AI, the first thing that comes to mind is ChatGPT, right? So chatbots is the very first thing that we hear when we hear the word AI. The very first thing that comes to mind, right? So, but chatbots is like just the introduction of what AI can do, what AI is capable of doing. So there is an entire world out there, like what Venetia said 2 weeks ago, right? There is an entire world out there that uses AI. For instance, this my camera now, Samsung Galaxy has AI. Xiaomi products, they have AI in their cameras. So it's evolving, it's getting into our careers, it's getting into doing laundry, it's getting into doing various things, right? That seemingly only required human capacity or human intellect or human participation. But now it's becoming different. Slowly, it's getting different. The world as we know it has changed completely. I want you guys to participate in it. I want you guys to be first partakers of that movement, right? And that's the reason for all of this. So without further ado, right, let's make welcome our guest speaker for today, Mr. Olayemi Bakare. He's going to be teaching us how to leverage this chatbots well. Since chatbots are like introduction into AI, especially for us here as Africans, they are introduction. So we find it difficult using it, right? So he's going to be showing us how to use these chatbots as well and through prompt engineering. I believe you've at one point this week you've at least asked ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever chatbots you are familiar with, if at least asked it a question, sent it a prompt or whatever, and it gave you something that you like or probably something you didn't like. But whatever the case, right, you're in the right track, you're in the right place. Today we're talking on prompt engineering, and Mr. Olayemi Bakare, he's just a quick bio. I saw the bio and I was astounded by it. I was like, okay, I'm really, really curious about what I'm going to learn from this, right? A former DeepMind scholar and a master's degree holder in microbiology. I don't know if I got that right.
So, okay, how you got that right?
All right.
But I don't have a master's degree in microbiology yet, so we'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I've been having, it's like, this doesn't want me to do this today, which is odd. So today we're talking about prompt engineering, and a little bit of introduction. From Nigeria. I'm from a very small town in Ondo State, and I have a PhD in computer science from Babcock University, and then I was awarded a Google DeepMind Scholar, where I was in London for a year, working on large language models, which is basically the popular one everybody says is ChatGPT. And then I moved to the US last year to start a master's in microbiology, because that was what I had for my undergrad, and there is something I'm passionate about, which is not in the context of what we're talking about today. But the reason why I'm giving that is because as you go through all those things, you can find a way to connect the dot. I'll be starting a PhD in genomics, phenomics, and bioinformatics at my school year once I'm done with my master's. And that will be where I kind of connect all my background in microbiology, data science, AI, and all of that. I also own a business in Nigeria. Anyways, that's taking too long, so I'm going to move on and start talking about prompting. So, the person that started the call, I was having a bit of issue with my PC. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay, so the person that gave the introduction has done a really good job talking about prompting, and honestly, she really explained it really well. And so I'm not going to go into what prompting is. I believe most of you do know that. So prompt engineering, I would just mention it in passing. This is not a universally accepted definition, but this is the way I would like to describe it today. It's the art of talking to AI the right way to get the right result. And a few years ago, when we had this come up, we were seeing big salaries around this job. So people realized this is a foundational skill. Everybody should know how to do this. This is not something special where we need to hire someone and pay them in the upwards of $200,000 a year. So, okay. Can someone time me? I want to go through what I have in about 5 minutes. And then wherever I get to, I want us to go to actually doing a show and tell rather than me just telling you things. So once it's 5 minutes time, someone should tell me to shut up. So anyways, about 75% of AI output can improve if you write a better prompt. It will improve your productivity more than 10 times. And if you see the list of the top workplace skills that are being released by Coursera, I think I saw another tech company. It's in one of the top skills that you would see listed for this year. And usually, my show and tell is also on my slide. So usually people go with, oh, well, let's just type questions into a chatbot. Well, only developers need it because we've seen a lot of software engineers now writing prompts to refine their code to debug. And some people say, oh, it's not smart enough. It will not understand what I mean. Well, I believe that's those people are getting disproved as the day go by. But in reality, if you can craft the right prompt, you don't need any coding skill. It's something anybody can learn. And the most important point here is that the difference between when you write a vague response, a vague input, and a well-crafted one, it's what's apart. This slide is not about, okay, I think I might do it this way. We'll jump around from the slide to go into Claude, go into Copilot, and then come back to the slide. So you don't need to tell me to shut up anymore. Okay, so we're going to do it this way. One of the things I really discovered during my master's in the UK and working around AI a lot was I realized, oh, I had been using these when I was in Babcock, but I didn't understand how it worked. And that was the first time where I had to learn, how does this work? So if you understand how a machine learning model works, you give it a lot of data, it tries to look around for the pattern in the data you've given it. In a small way, we can say that's the same way large language models work. If I use the word large language model, we're still talking about ChatGPT, we're still talking about Claude, we're still talking about the chatbot, but that's the word that would usually come to me, or I say LLM, so bear that in mind. And one thing I do think people do very often is because they don't know how it works, they just throw anything at it. For example, you can see on the left side of my screen, you would see, help me with my resume. And then the AI tool is wondering, okay, if any one of you on the call, I decide, oh, I'd like someone to review my resume for me or help me improve it. And then I send my resume to you and say, help me with my resume. Would you even understand what I'm trying to do? Because even if you do it and then you send it back to me, there is every probability I'm going to tell you it's not good enough. Why? Because you are not a mind reader. How are you supposed to know what I need you to do if I don't give you the full context? If I don't fully explain to you what you're supposed to do? Okay, let's say, for example, I'm a microbiologist. I'm a computer scientist. I'm a bioinformatician. If I'm applying for a bioinformatics job, my CV needs to be tailored towards a bioinformatics role. If I'm applying for a microbiologist job, I could still put my bioinformatics because it makes me look special, because that means I can also analyze data that come out of the lab. But the truth is, you still want to align it to a microbiology role. And in essence, the same way, I would need to tell you that, oh, this is my CV. I need you to make it aligned very well into a bioinformatics role I'm trying to apply for. It's the same way you need to tell this LLM what they need to do. You can't just come and say, help me with my resume. It doesn't understand. So in essence, you want to craft a good prompt. On the right side, you can see you're a career coach. Number one, what you're doing for the LLM is limiting its scope. I don't need you to think too far. I need you to think like someone that coaches a career. This is one of the things I did very much in the UK. We were working on using large language model to identify drug patterns and help people with multiple diseases. And what you would do then was you would write for the LLM, you are a UK pharmacist. That way you want it thinking like a pharmacist. That's you giving it a role. And then you want to give it a context. Review my resume for a data analyst role. Do you know what you've just done? Now it's looking at your resume and trying to align it to a data analyst role, and not just, oh, help me with my resume. And then you want it to also list improvement. That's what you're seeing on the right side. If we put this in a large language model and I upload my CV as an attachment, you will see the difference. We don't have the time to do that. I'm going to show you one or two things, but this is why I have this on the slide, so I can show you how the different prompts should look like. This is another example. If you go around and say, oh, explain climate change, and you are a researcher, well, a layman, that is acceptable. But if you're trying to use this, you want it to think like a science communicator. Now, I'm not going to dwell on these, but if you read the prompt on the right, I'm sure you're already getting the gist of what I'm trying to say. That you don't just tell people what to do without giving them the context, letting them understand the scope, and eliminating the jargons in whatever you're trying to do. That is really important. So there are very many frameworks to writing a prompt. An example is the CAFE, which is CAFE. In that case, that's the one my wife likes. You give it the context, you tell it an action to perform, you give it a format, and you give it an example. That is really important. You see the example part, if you know the amount of impact it had on my research, okay, let's say you want to do drug-drug interaction. You give it, for example, this drug and this drug, this is the implication. And then you give it like 5 examples. The LLM understands what you want it to do because it's also learning from your prompt. By the way, this would be a good time to pause and let you know that there is something called a context window. So an LLM is basically learning from what you give it. So if you don't give it really good stuff, it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. This is another framework, RISE. I'm sure by now you should have taken a look at it. It's the one I was explaining on the previous slide. You give it a role, you give it an instruction, you give it a context, you give it a constraint because you don't want it thinking too wide. You give it a scope. This, I don't want you to go beyond this point. And then the example is one thing I just mentioned, which is also another framework. I'm not going to be explaining this because of time, but this is a good example. So let's say, let me just run through it really quickly. Oh, you're a startup mentor with an experience in agri-tech, and then this is the prompt. Evaluate this business idea, give it me 3 strengths, 3 risks. Oh, I'm a graduate student in microbiology. This is about me because my research is on biofertilizer. And you also want to give it constraints. Oh, I don't want more than a sentence. Use plain language, no jargons. Things like that are constraints because now the language model knows that it doesn't need to return 1,000 words for you because you need it to be short. You don't need each point to be really long. And then you give it an example. Okay, so before we move on, we might not eventually get to this. I want to actually show you a simple example. I know most of the time, a lot of people use, I need a response to these. Who uses Claude instead of ChatGPT? Anyone on the call? Just someone can respond and let me know if there is anyone that uses Claude instead of ChatGPT.
I think it's mostly ChatGPT and Gemini.
Okay. So the last time I had a presentation here at Ascent, one of the things I pointed out is you want to know the limitation of each LLM. For example, my work email, my business work email, gives me access to Gemini. Also, if you're a student in the US or in the UK, you get free Gemini. I also get Notebook LM as part of that. But personally, I pay for Claude. I pay 1 year in advance for Claude. That's how useful it is, like a full year. And ChatGPT, I pay monthly because there are some months I'll just cancel it and then pay for it again when I feel like. Why? Because over time, you start understanding pattern. Can you see my screen? This is about jollof war. This is not scientific. I'm just trying to make this a bit fun, but this was important. I'm the treasurer of the African Student Union in my school, and we were having a meeting, and we had, you spend hours just deciding what should we do. And then I had this idea because we are having an African event soon, and we invite the university president and a lot of people. And we're thinking, what should we do? And I thought, let's ask Claude. And he wrote this wonderful script. We laughed so much. And what did I do? I was typing this while working. But if you look at the prompt, it's not structured in the framework, which is the reality. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not all the time you're going to be thinking in framework, but you need to explain enough. You can't go and say, just give me a script for a drama. No, you need to tell it what you want. So most of the time, people approach AI expecting AI to do all the job. In my way, the way I approach AI is use it as an extension of your brain. And for that, it means when you want it to write something for you, let's say an essay, try to write whatever comes to your mind, whatever concept you have, and then you give it to AI to improve it for you or add to it. But just saying, write this essay for me. Honestly, most of the time, it would never look as good as when you personalize it and use your own life experience to make something beautiful. Think about it. I'm sure you know Nigerian Ghana Jollof war has been going on for a long time. We have a lot of Ghanaian students here on campus, and we still have an argument about it sometimes. So I thought, why not make it into a drama? And we are going to make it into a court. We are going to have a judge from a different country because we also have African students. And he wrote this. I wish I could send this to you. You would have a really good Saturday. It's really funny one. And one of the things I use Claude for, let's move away from the jollof one, is planning research. Okay, let's say I wanted to do a research in the lab and I'm thinking, I'd like to plan it beforehand. I'm going to give you a trick to plot. So I want to write a prompt. I'm a microbiologist. I have a few isolates from Lagos, Nigeria. I need to extract DNA and run a bioinformatics analysis to determine if there is any antibiotic resistant genes in my isolates. And this experiment and use HTML to show me the workflow. Be concise. Okay, while that runs, let's just finish up the slide and then we can come back to that. So prompting can be a force multiplier. I'm showing you, you can use it for your career. For example, gone are the days where people have to learn, Microsoft Excel formulas and all that. Now you don't need to do that. You only need to have an idea, but you need to explain your idea clearly to the LLM. I think that is what people are not getting. You need to give it context. Most of the time, honestly, it's because I'm explaining something and I know we don't have a lot of time. If it was a normal me, what I just type into the LLM, it's going to be about 100 words. I'm not saying that will be the case all the time, but when you truly want AI to give you something, you need to be very specific. And that is what I like about this. You give it a role, then you give instruction, you give it a context, you give it a constraint, and you give it an example. This is a really good example because if you put this together now and give LLM, you will see the difference between that and just saying, give me a business idea. I've seen people type, give me a business idea. It doesn't know what business idea it should give you. There are millions of business ideas in the world. But if you want to be specific, in my own case, most of my research is focused on biofertilizer, and it has commercial implication. It can be turned into a business. In fact, my supervisor just started a startup. You want to give it context. This is the niche. This is the specific niche that I want you to focus on. And that's about business and startup. You can also use it for your daily life, to draft reports. In fact, let me give you something funny. The slide you're currently looking at was generated by AI. This slide. Why? Because I was making the slide for this presentation, which I really liked. But then I thought, I was presenting to people about prompting. I might as well prompt the slide. This slide was made with Claude, what you're seeing on the slide. But this is reflecting what I had in mind to present today. You need to steer it in the right direction. When you use LLM and give it vague inputs, you're basically like a driver that left the wheel. You need to steer it in the right direction always. If you needed to write a poem, for example, there was a time I used LLM to write a poem for my wife. That was a few years ago, practicing around it. You want to define it. I gave LLM stories about us. I told it I need a lot of rhymes in it. You need to really be specific. And then how we met, when we met, a lot of things like that. And when the poem came out, you would see how personalized it is, how tailored it is. Also, that is how people know that you use LLM, because you are not personalizing it. For example, let's say I want to write an essay of 500 words. I'm not sure what I want to write, but I have a few ideas here and there. And I type up my idea about 150 words. And I say, Claude, this is what I've written so far. I'm not sure if my idea is really good. Can you critique it? You start from there. Also, I see people, you want to write just one prompt and get all you want from that prompt. That's not going to happen. You want to keep steering it in the right direction. So a build-up of prompt, you follow up with another prompt. It's going in the way you don't like. And that's also one of the things that scares me about LLM. The one thing that scares me when people use it, especially when I moved there, when I was in the UK, the way we were taught how to use LLM was you were allowed to use it for everything, for every assignment. You can cite it on your own work, which was good, because now you're backed into a corner. You need to show us your own creativity that stands out, because 70 students in a class, everybody is using LLM. So what makes your work stand out? Coming here to the US is a different thing, because people are still a little bit skeptical when it comes to education not the whole AI ecosystem. And when students feel like, oh, I'm trying to not let my lecturer know that I'm using AI, they end up using it in a way that is even worse than when they know that you are using it. And then what I've seen here is people then write, and then you can easily tell it's written by AI. But in the UK, you're free to use it, but now you have to show your creativity. Now you don't have a choice. And I think that's one of the things that helped me improve on the way I write my prompts. Because now you know that you need to give it a lot so you can get a lot from it, so that it can be personalized to you. So if I'm typing something, I expect that a single prompt might be as long as 10 different prompts. I will write it and I'll be like, oh, no, that's not what I mean. I think you should use research that are appropriate to these and these. Oh, I read this study and this study says these and these. You want to use it as a force multiplier, not as your brain. Please keep that in mind. And I'm sure you must have read my slide by now, so I'm not going to go into this anymore. Also, these being too vague, skipping the role, expecting perfection in the first try, all these I already mentioned to you in what I've been saying. So let's go to Claude, talk about, okay, so I don't know if there's any microbiologist on the call, but this applies to marketing. My wife is in marketing and in animal science also. If there is anybody on the call, they will be able to understand this, because what this is telling you, you can easily print this as a roadmap for what you need to do. What I do is also make sure that I confirm, but this is written in HTML. This is kind of built like a website. A lot of people don't do that, but that's my secret with LLM. And that's why one of the reasons I also don't like ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is not very efficient at this. Claude does it really well. Whatever idea I have, I let it turn it into like a website. So now, what I've written, this is it. It's telling me what to do. This nutrients, this is what I should use. This is the incubation temperature. This is how long I should incubate it. It's telling me how to extract the genomic DNA, and it's telling me in steps. I'm a microbiologist, and I can tell you, this is the exact way you would do it in the lab. And this is not something you would do in a day. This is more than a week of work in the lab, but it's a good guide. You can print it, you can hold on to it and just follow the steps. And that way, you don't need to start thinking, where do I start from? Oh, I have this isolate. Isolates are bacteria, like bacteria you already have maybe in a test tube. And then you want to find out if they have antibiotic resistant gene. Antibiotic resistant genes are, when we take antibiotics, we expect them to kill bacteria. But because of mutation and because of the way people misuse antibiotics, especially in countries like Nigeria and in West Africa, where we take antibiotics for anything, these bacteria have now developed resistance to this drug. And that's why people take different drugs for the same infection and it would not work. And now I have this bacteria I've extracted in Lagos, and I want to see if they have any antibiotic resistance gene. And I just sat down here and planned a workflow that would take a lot of hours to plan in one sitting. This is a microbiology explanation. Now, if you were to be in a pharmacist role, if you were to do marketing, I'm a little bit skeptical about using LLM for science, because I know that it still makes mistake. And with science, if a little thing goes wrong, it can be problems that you'll be solving for months. And that's one of the reasons why I said use it as an extension of your brain, not your brain. And this will apply to marketing, will apply to any thing you want to use it for. When you want to type a single email, don't just say, let me type a message responding to my boss that this. Why do you want to respond to your boss? Give the AI the context. Give the AI, oh, did you see the way I started this? I didn't fully follow the framework, but it's there. I'm a microbiologist. This is the task. I want you to plan it. This is the output. Also, it gives you the constraint. I don't need to read the output as text. I need it as HTML, which is kind of like you've built a website. I think I should pause there and let's talk about questions because I know I'm over time already. I wish I could keep showing you the fantastic things LLM can do. In fact, I opened ChatGPT, I opened Copilot. I wanted to show you the different responses. We don't have the time for that, but let's take a few questions, and I think that might be the best way to. Oh, all right. I think someone has a question.
I think Alaba, your hands has been up. All right.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Olayemi. Nice to meet you again. I was around for the Cohort one, so you also took a session then. So it's nice hearing from you again. Yeah. Yeah, so I have several questions because the session we had was actually last year, and it actually triggered a chain reaction. Just some things you said, which you mentioned again in this session about, different AI, they have their, you didn't say it exactly as you said it then, but like they have their capabilities. Check them out. Jasper AI might be more good for maybe data analysis, and you mentioned all those stuff, right? So like I went for NYC Youth Service, and then they were talking about AI. And then I was talking, okay, that was in the NYC camp, rather. So they were talking about AI. Most of them only knew about ChatGPT. So I contributed and I said, oh, there are different AIs for different things, blah, blah, blah. And that little statement I made got me like a contract, you understand? Because the person that was in charge of the class felt like, oh, I know about AI. So, you understand? So that like caused like a chain reaction. So thanks for that anyways. So, and I've explored several AI agents and chatbots since then. So, and that brings me to my question. First of all, I think the first question I would have is, you said you use Claude for research planning. So I want to be sure that you are intentional about the word. So, research planning is different from the research itself. So do you also use it for the research processes? I'm asking this because Google's Gemini prides itself in having a research as a research tool as well. So do you also use Google Gemini for research, or is it just Claude? That is question one. Maybe let's just start with that first.
Okay. So thank you for not stacking up the question. One thing is, you see, research planning, that's a bit different. Talking in the context of a graduate research assistant. So I think you might be conflicting two things. Are you trying to talk about research writing?
Okay. Why I asked the question is you specifically mentioned research planning, right? So that's different from research writing or doing the research itself. So you said you use Claude to do the research planning.
Okay, so research planning, it's basically what I just showed you. What a lot of people don't get is, for example, you could be doing a research for years. In fact, I've been working since I moved here last year. I've been working on the same thing for till now. it takes a long time for you to do research. Research takes a long time, especially outside Africa, where they actually do robust research. I'm not going to say all of Africa, because South Africa does a lot of really good research and other places. But I would not compare the research we do when I was in Nigeria, well, let's say my undergraduate research, to the way we do research here. Research here, they are longer. And for that, you need to have a careful plan. You don't want to go into the lab and then you, using the time you should be doing work, there is a doing component with research. That's why I'm wondering if you meant research writing, because you'll be sitting, you'll be pipetting some days in the lab to 2 a.m. in the morning. So research planning actually means just planning, but the planning takes a long time, and you can simplify that time, but it does not mean you will not go into the lab and do the hard work of, it's a laborer's work and hands-on work.
Okay. Let me rephrase my question. I think you didn't get.
Okay.
So I understand the research planning. My question is with the AI tool you use. You said you use Claude for the planning, right? So like, I assume you also use AI tools for the research itself, the research processes, either in choices you would make in the lab or in the writing processes. So like, is it still Claude you use for that, or I'm asking because of I'm asking because I know Gemini is also a tool, a good AI tool for research, or would you agree with that? I'm saying that based off what Google tried to put out there, that they have a research option, a research tool, advanced research tool. Do you think that Google Gemini is also good for research, and do you at any point use it for your research processes aside the planning, or do you also use it for planning sometimes, or it's just strictly Claude you use for the planning process?
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So there is many parts of research. Research writing, when you're done with the research, you have to write. Research communication, you want to, that's when you're making posters, you're making slides. What else can I, apart from bench work, where you're actually doing the work on bench, you have to do that yourself. But moving on from that, almost every grad student in my department has to know how to code. You need to learn how to use R, and almost all of them use ChatGPT for that, because you can easily debug with ChatGPT, and because ChatGPT is popular. But for me, my own research planning process, the part where I plan research, not the other things, I will stick to Claude. And then you don't want to use Claude alone, because research has to do with a lot of research papers. You want to take a look at research papers. So I don't use Gemini for that part of the process, if that answers your question. But is it useful? Honestly, I can't say, because the things I've used Gemini for is even seeing weird stuff on the other 3 AIs I use frequently. And I decide, let me see what Gemini says about this. But it's not really part of my stack, because over time you develop a stack, you have a go-to, you already know what works for what. If I'm reading and I need something to simplify it for me so that my reading is going really fast, I use ChatGPT. Why? Because ChatGPT will simplify something very easily. You can upload your slide into ChatGPT. Don't do it as a whole, like you upload a full slide. Copy each slide separately. Let me just show you. Here's what I would do if I want ChatGPT to explain this page. Copy, and then I'll just put it in ChatGPT. I don't know.
We can't see your screen.
Oh, sorry. Did I stop sharing? Okay. Can you see now?
Yeah.
Okay, this is my slide. I'm just going to Control copy, Control C, and then paste it in ChatGPT. This, honestly, is the only useful thing I use ChatGPT for. Anything else, I prefer to use Claude for coding. I prefer to use Claude for a lot of things, because it's just inherently better. So, I don't know if that. Oh, Let me just explain. We don't need to, you just copy the slide and paste it in ChatGPT instead of uploading the full slide. You pick them one after the other because that way it would explain for you in depth. It's a good way. Honestly, I shouldn't, this is a recorded session, but I will just say it. I had A in my microbial genetics last semester, and honestly, when I came here, it was really difficult for me because it was one of those parts when I was doing my undergrad that I was running from. So I had a really high score in that. How did that happen? Most of the time when I'm studying, as I'm reading the slide, I'm also doing that. Copy each slide and put it in ChatGPT, and then it just explains it in a way that it's easier for me to get. Before we take another question from anybody, Emmanuel, can you go on with your question? I know you've been raising your hand for a while.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the whole lecture stuff. Yeah, personally I use ChatGPT and then cross-reference with Grok and sometimes Meta AI. But I just want to ask a very quick question. Is there any specific benefit to asking Claude to present its results in HTML, or that's just a personal preference?
It's a personal preference. And
Okay.
also, and there's also a reason for that. So let's say you want to process 2,000 samples in the lab. You would be surprised that you will be doing that. Maybe you're pipetting stuff inside test tubes. You will realize that, oh, was that number 100 or number 101? It can get confusing. HTML is basically a design. You can design. What I'm showing you today, it's a piece. It's like a really small piece of what you can do. It will show you everything in kind of like a layout. And then when I print it, you can easily be ticking it off as you're doing that thing. Maybe you have like a list of steps. It will do it. It will separate them for you based on colors. It will color code it for you, like create a design of what you are planning. I'm not talking about research alone now. Maybe you can try it on your own and see what I'm trying to say. Present this as HTML. It does it really well. And I discovered that a while back, and honestly, it's been game-changing for me. But it's a personal preference if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I know we are running out of time, so Victory, can you go?
Sorry, I would have a follow-up question. Is that okay?
Yeah. I want to end up with you because I think you might have a bit more questions. So I'll go with Victory and then I'll come to you so that we can just keep having the conversation till they kick me out. Victory?
Good evening. This is my first time attending this. I just got the link from my brother. So I want to ask a question based on so you spoke about research planning and everything, but I have a general question. To do general research, like probably researching on history and like you want to research on history, you want to research on something that people have already researched on, which AI is best? Because I know ChatGPT can be very useless when it comes to that, because it will just give you one weird summary or something you want to hear and it's not going into details. So I'm asking, I use cloud more though, but like I'm like, which is the best for deep research? Like check the statistics of this, tell me this, like all those deep research type of stuff.
Victory, if I'm going to be honest with you, I'm a scientist and I will tell you, if you really want to do good research, you still need to put in your own work. And in the case of this, how would you put your own work? I would download a bunch of paper. And if now I'm not interested in reading all those paper, I'm just giving you an example. I would still read a bunch of paper, if I'm being honest with you, because I feel like we are not there yet. There's been a lot of improvement, but we are not there yet. When it comes to science, you can't get it wrong. Science is, especially when you're doing it in a developed country, they will redact your paper. They will render you very useless in a very short time if you're making mistakes. Science doesn't really give room for necessary error. I'm just using science as a context, but in your own case, I will still download a bunch of paper. Now, here's what you can do. You can put those paper in something like Notebook LM. The reason why I like that is because Notebook LM will not hallucinate for you. Hallucination is just giving you something that sounds good, but it's not true. That's what LLM does, and that's one of its limitations. So if you're giving Notebook LM, it's only going to be reading inside those papers. So one of the things I've done for someone before is we can download 50 papers. That will not take you a lot of time. Now give Notebook LM and start asking your questions. So now you're using evidence-based, but something is reading it and collating it for you very quickly. And then it also makes it easy because you know what paper to cite very quickly. Does that answer your question, Victory?
Not really. You said Notebook LM. Is it a
Oh, it's
is it
an
an
AI
LM?
tool too. It's from Google. It's an AI tool. You can just search for it. It's Notebook LM. It's another AI tool. But now I can also tell you, Claude does that really well. Claude will cite. The only thing is, don't trust all the citation Claude returns. But Claude has been very accurate with returning research stuff. But it's
Then
not
for
100%
writing,
there yet.
for
Yes,
writing,
yes.
which is the best? Like for writing, chat summarize a lot. So yeah, I know chat is not supposed to be inside it.
I thought you said you use Claude earlier.
Yeah, I use Cloud. Initially, I was using chat, but then I realized that chats summarize a
Summarizes
lot.
a lot. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm like, I just kicked it out. Like, you're not giving me what I want. So I'm asking in writing, in basic writing, like writing of probably a speech or
Oh,
on
okay. For
things.
that,
Yeah.
now this is the beauty of what I am saying about combining LLM tools. If you want to write, let me tell you the honest truth, the way I would write something that is not significant, non-scientific, I just want to write something, I go with ChatGPT. I know it summarizes like you just said. That's good. You're already identifying that limitation. And I will still put it in ChatGPT, use Claude, and use Copilot at the same time. And now this is where your human element comes in. You look at all three. What I would do is paste all three in Grammarly, and now carefully put them together paragraph by paragraph. There is something I learned, and it's one of the things that helped me get a scholarship. It's being able to divide paragraphs separately. And doing that means I can start my writing from the end and go to the beginning when I'm writing an essay. So if you are able to do that, now you understand, oh, this paragraph from Copilot makes sense, but I don't like this paragraph from Claude. They are nearly saying the same thing, but it seems Copilot says it better and explains it more. And then you are able to piece them together. So that's why I'm saying, don't just put things in ChatGPT and say, oh, this is the best response. No, you need to be able to find ways to put those things together, and then that's where your human component comes in to combine them together. And you don't have to do it all the way. You pick all the main points, and then you can look at the responses and decide, oh, it seems like Claude did better. And then now give it to Claude. Oh, this is the idea I have. This is the full formed idea I have. Can you now just make it concise for me? Do you get that? So it's going to be a process, but people just, I need you to write this for me and then take whatever ChatGPT or whatever Claude says and move on with their day. It does not work that way. In fact, if you're applying for things, you're probably not going to get a call back that way. You still need to do the work of personalization and putting the human element there, because that's what people are looking for these days. Now that they know that everybody can write a cover letter for jobs, they know that LLM does all those things. Where is the human component? And that's where you bring it in, but you now put it as part of your workflow. Do all those things together, and then you will be able to stand out. So you're using the LLM, it's making your work faster, but at the same time, you're personalizing and putting an human element into it.
All right. Thank you.
Do we still have time? I still I don't know. I think we're out of time already. But
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't hear that question
I'm going to answer your question one way or the
at
other,
all.
Lava. Let me get
Yeah.
a response about the time.
Okay.
Do we still have time? We're done, right? I'm trying to get a feedback on the time. I know it's
Okay, on the
9:19.
time.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's like,
Okay. Do we still have time for another question, or we need to wrap up?
yes. We have up until 9:15. That's when we started.
Oh, okay. So you can go with your question, and I'll try to be faster with my responses.
All right. I think what you said in some other answers really buttresses a lot, and I like the fact you mentioned about stacking AI tools together, because I've experienced that and that has helped a lot. So my question would be, from your own experience, what do you think are the best AI tools for different aspects of workflow or life or productivity that you know from your own experiences? That's one. And the second is is in reference to something you said earlier. I was going to ask it, but you also made reference to it just now. How do you think people can deal with the issue of over dependency on AI? Because I think that's what stands people out a lot, and that's what can stand people out a lot. Putting the human element, for example, in the research, you still have to do the research yourself. Apart from wanting to get a good quality of work, just so that you can experience the research yourself and know that you did it and you understand the elements that you actually worked with and you understand how you got from X to Z. Because I experienced that, working on creating a course, using AI tools. So I couldn't just tell the AI create a course. I had to tell you what I want. But apart from that, like I had to do a lot of work in terms of editing, taking from this tool to that tool, from this tool, and doing a bit of maybe research on my own on other courses as well. Like we have to actually still put our brains to work using AI. I think that's what people have not gotten to terms with yet. They think that AI just does things for you, just like that. So how do we undo that? How do people avoid just numbing out their brain or their own mental faculties and just being too over dependent on AI, even for normal frivolous things like just asking a questions or dealing with life situations? That's one. And then the second one, the first one I asked was, what are from your own experience, the AI tools you think are best for, whatever case scenario, like writing, which you've mentioned, coding, productivity, automation, and whatever else comes to your mind that you use AI tools for. Like, for example, like Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok, Jasper, and so on, as you may have access to.
Okay. So I'll start with the second question. How can people deal with overdependence? You see, the thing is, if something takes you 30 hours and then you can use AI to make it faster, but it takes you 5 hours to get there, I would take that as a win. And people need to learn that let's say, for example, I'm on a scholarship board and you're applying for a scholarship, maybe to the US, to the UK, to Canada, wherever in the world. And you think you're going to be a better candidate by saying, let me write my statement of purpose, I'm applying to this school. And then it gives you the letter. You're about to waste your application fee, I can tell you that. Because no one in this world, not your wife, not your siblings, not your cousins, no one knows you like you do. And no one can tell your own story like you can. I'm giving the example of an SOP because I think some of you might be applying to grad school, and that would be a good example. So you need to tell it your own story. When I'm writing about And you need to personalize your story. Also, you see, when I was applying to the UK, my scholarship in the UK, I was talking about my work doing machine learning in Babcock. When I applied here in the US, I was emphasizing, in fact, you would not believe it, I was emphasizing about a book I had read. And that got me into this form of research I'm doing now. It's a very unlikely scenario that would happen. But AI cannot think to that extent that, oh, Olayemi does not have any background in this area. How do I connect the dots for him? It's going to connect the dots in a way that whoever is reading it, think about it. I'm sure some things you've gone online, you've seen people write stuff and you've looked at that is AI. That one is AI. And now think about people that want to give you $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year in scholarship. You think they would not do their due diligence on that? Let me not focus too much on that. That's one example. And one of the things you should know about that is that that's going to be a personal decision. How much do you want it? Because I know supervisors here that they don't even joke around it. I'm taking microbial physiology this semester. The man was like, I'm giving you a 6,000 words assignment. If you like, go and use AI. Because you're going to get 0 on the exam stuff if you use AI to write the paper for me. It's a review paper. If I'm not going to lie to you, I got a really simple topic. If I put it in LLM, it will generate the 6,000 words in one sitting. But the truth is, also, how do you learn to critique literature? How would it be heard of that I came all this way and then I didn't learn anything? If I'm coding, my supervisor likes it. Oh, use it to explain what you're doing because he knows the world has changed. Those are the things you want to use it for. Things that, oh, normally we debug code. And how do we debug code? When you're writing code, you go on forums. How can I solve this problem? I'm having issue with the program. And so if LLM is doing that for you, I think it's just making it faster, the same outcome. It depends on you. Do you still want to learn? These things, like I said, I already summarized it before I started that this should be an extension of your brain, but you cannot force it on people. I can only tell you the way I'm telling you now that nobody can understand your mindset. Nobody can, it would tell over time. Me personally, I like an element of Olayemi. If you read any story I write, if you read any poem, whatever I use AI for and I give you to read, you know that I am in this story. That's the way you want to do things if you want to get really good responses, win those scholarships, get money, get those jobs, win proposals. And then about my experiences, I'm going to keep this very short. ChatGPT, I already explained. If you're studying, especially in the Nigeria education system, I would say take a picture of all your notes. If your note is not slides, then give it one after the other. It would explain it. And then whatever you don't understand, you can ask follow-up question. I think ChatGPT is really good for studying. I'm not going to lie about that. That's really something that I put ChatGPT above every LLM on that scale. As much as I said I don't like ChatGPT, you see, that's one thing. But Claude, if you're writing code, I'm a bioinformatician, which means you're writing code, you're building Bash, Bash, Python, writing a lot of stuff. ChatGPT does really good with debugging, especially with telling you what this line of code is doing. Because especially we are microbiologists in my department. I have a background that made me learn coding and doing other things before coming here. But imagine a microbiology student that has to analyze big data, thousands and thousands of data. We use the HPC here because these are not even stuff you can do on your own PC. We use the high-powered computing. And when you're doing that, most of the time they don't know because it's not their field. So when they get all this code, they have to like, ChatGPT, can you tell me what that is doing? What that is doing? And over time, you're learning. And that's also the way to use all this LLM. Rather than say, do this for me. Can you explain this to me? Oh, I like doing that. That's one of my best prompts. Can you explain this to me? Because the same way the LLM is trying to do something for you, you want to make sure that it's a learning process for you. Because what happens when I walk up to my supervisor, my supervisor in the UK is a renowned professor in the UK. I walk up to him and then he asks you a random question. And then you're like, are you going to say, I want to go and ask ChatGPT? How are you going to defend your work in the places that matter? So you want to turn it into a learning process. As you use this LLM, you also want to make sure that you're learning from it. Other things that I do think, there is an LLM I used recently that designed a full poster for me. I'm still trying to remember the name. Honestly, that's really good for poster. I've never seen anything like that before. It was amazing. I was trying to show my supervisor a diagram of a bioinformatic workflow, and he made it in 1 minute. It was amazing. Claude is good for coding too. And as you can see with HTML, you can use it to design websites without even having knowledge of that before. Claude is good for long tests. ChatGPT summarizes things. Victory, that's a good cache. I really like that. If you want longer tests, longer paragraph, you're trying to write something of thousands of words, use Claude. Don't use ChatGPT for something like that. You can use ChatGPT to see what ChatGPT is saying. And then Copilot for me has been that very useful cousin. It just comes in sometimes and saves the day when you're trying to explain something complex, and ChatGPT and Claude are just explaining it wrongly. And that's where your human component needs to come in, because I'm seeing the response and I'm thinking, nah, this is a lie. So that makes you say, oh, let me check if something else gets it right. Over time, so I might as well stop there. Thank you all for having me. It's still 3 p.m. over here. Need to let you.
Sorry, apologies. Just one. I just want to ask. Okay, what is Google Gemini good for, or as well?
It's not part of my stack. I think I mentioned that earlier. I have subscription for it, but it's not. So it's kind of like when you do web development, you have Rust, you have HTML, CSS, JavaScript. If you're a software developer or a web developer, you don't need to know all those things. Over time, you figure out the ones you want to learn, and that's your money maker. That's the one you get jobs in. So for me, when it comes to LLM, I just mentioned my stack to you. I stick to ChatGPT, Claude, and Copilot, even though I have full subscription for Notebook LM, Gemini. I stick to those three things because I've realized over time that they kind of solve all the things that come up in my day-to-day life.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I think maybe you used Gemini for a while, and then maybe you share with us at Ascent what you discover about Gemini. That would be nice.
No problem. No problem. I will do so. I have been using it for a while.
That's good. I don't know if Mr. Fidel is still there, so you can wrap up. I believe we're done for today. I'm sure he probably has something to say to close up. I do need to leave now. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much, Mr. Olayemi. My network has been kicking me out for
Okay.
quite a while now. Well, thank you so much for gracing our event this evening. Right. There are a couple of things I picked out, especially I think the RICCE framework.
Yep.
We're streaming live on I think this one could help everybody here gain clarity on that aspect. Can you still hear me? My network is still
Yeah.
fluctuating
We're
a
not
bit.
still for a bit, but it's good. I understand what you're saying.
All right. So I have a question, very quick one. I noticed you talked about research and then having to do your own private research outside of what AI has to give, right? I was there is this thing that that they tell us in AI, right? I think Gemini has it, ChatGPT has it. Actually, if you're using their website view, it says AI can make mistakes, right? Consider checking more information, right?
Yeah.
So given that whole background, right? Okay, do we still leverage AI fully, especially is there like a, let me say, a kind of prompt, as it were, right, that would help us bypass that whole thing? Because I one maybe it's biased, but I believe it can be bypassed.
Okay. So when I was a few years ago, I had to read about LLM, and I read about 300 and something pages to understand how it works. So understanding how it works will not make you disappointed. How does it work? At the layer, it's basically words, a lot of words, and it's just looking
All
at
right.
patterns based on what you gave it. So within a context window, what you gave it, it's looking at it and using it to kind of generate words. So in essence, it's a predictive model. It's been improved in recent time to include maybe doing a bit of web search and all that. But at its core, it's a predictive model. It's just piecing words together. Based on this, what this person asked me, what word can I bring together for this person? And it just keeps writing it out for you like that. And based on what it's writing, it's also picking from that to improve, to increase what it's writing, learning from it and going further to predict more words for you. And if you know that that's the way it operates, especially as a scientist, I'm a scientist, whether I'm in my computer science element or in my microbiology element, you need to approach everything with a bit of skepticism. And that's important as a scientist. You can't fully trust anything, or else there will be no innovation in this world. And if you are approaching LLM that way too, it really changes the way you think about it, because now it's not about, yes, it does make mistake, but does that overrule all the good things it's been doing? No, it does not. If you're working in a field that is non-consequential, like not, let me put it this way, you're Nigerians, nothing spoil field, it doesn't spoil anything, then maybe you can rely on it 100%. But in the context of science, where you're doing stuff that really important, do you know what happens when a scientific research goes wrong? Number one, you can spend years troubleshooting. Normally, before AI happened, one little small thing can go wrong in the lab, and you'll be trying to figure it out for the next 3 years, pouring a lot of money into it. So you don't want to do, and that's why you want to be approaching these things with curiosity, but at the same time understanding that even lecturers, people here, especially here in developed countries, people that have been teaching for about 40 years, they will tell you they are still learning from their students because they come up with something new every day. And if you are using the scientific approach like that, then even LLM, you approach it carefully, knowing that this is useful, but at the same time, I do need to be sure. It's more or less like, oh, something tells you that human have 3 eyes. And then because you are not doing your own research, you just go along with it. You're going to embarrass yourself somewhere. So you want to go around knowing a bit of everything. Like, that's the way you want to approach life. Well, that's the way you want to approach knowledge. And those little bit of knowledge you accumulate is what you will use to know that I might be asking you this thing because I don't know it that much, but what you're saying seems wrong. I'm not sure about what you're saying. And then you do a little bit of research, a little bit of reading a research paper, and then you can verify, okay, what the student is saying is right, what the student is saying is wrong. It's as simple as that. It's useful. We can't dispute that, but we just don't want it to become our brain. I think it just goes to what we've been saying earlier too. Hello, Mr. Fidel?
Right. All right. I get bits and pieces of that, but I'll have to re-listen to the recording again. My network is still acting up. All right. So thank you very much, Mr. Olayemi. Thank you so much. And even Alfred sends his regards as well. Right? So thank you so much for gracing us. I think he'll reach out to you between now and Monday, right? Just to touch base and next steps moving forward. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
that's okay. And I think
and to everyone.
We should have a competition around this with a prize. You should tell Mr. Collins I said that. All right.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. And good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's appreciate Mr. Olayemi for his time with us tonight. All right. Thank you so much for joining us once more. And just before we wrap up, right? Cohort 2 program is still going on, and really one of the issues that we had an issue concerning Cohort 2, that's concerning access to Thinkific Thinkific platform, rather, where our courses are. So a video has been prepared, everything has been set, and from next week you get in, you get access and all of that, right? So we're making it an experience that I believe you heard this before, but I'm gonna say it again. You're making that experience that you'll never, ever forget for this course. So for the next 3 months, you are in for a big shot with Ascent Innovation Lab. So, Mr. Olayemi, would you want us to connect with you, let's say after now, probably on social media, LinkedIn, or what have you?
Yeah, sure. That's
It's something we can share it. We can share it to the community.
Oh, if you search my name, you'll see me, but whatever you see, it's going to be currently my microbiology element. So that's what you should be looking out for.
All right. All right. That's okay. That's okay. All right. Once again, thank you everyone for your time tonight. And I really hope this has been amazing for you. So continuing just for spoilers, all right. Next we are looking into we are having a very first recorded webinar, right? We are looking into perspective of the use of AI from someone directly in the UK, how they are using AI and what the next steps are concerning using AI, right? So I believe that will be very much helpful for you guys. So if you want the recording, it's live. It's on our YouTube channel currently, right? Right. So on our YouTube channel currently, and you can rewatch it, you can play it and all of that. But then we'll share it back with you again. All right, thank you everyone. You can hop up the call, right? But if you wish to stay and listen to the music, be my guest.